let's just get started. So hi everyone, and thank you so much for joining today. So my name is Nana. I'm a grants manager here in Swoop, and we'll be chatting to you all about how we can help your clients and how you can use grants as a service in your business on a day-to-day basis as well. So what I'll be going through today is the basics of grants and what it is, how we use it, and then what you can do to utilize this with your clients and how to best support them. Just a bit of housekeeping before we go into it. So you'll see on Zoom there's a chat box and a Q&A box. It would be really good if you just use the Q&A box for any questions you have, and then it'll pop up on my screen and I'll either answer them during the slides to have like a Q&A session in the end of it all. It will not be possible for me at this point to say what exactly is available for a specific client of yours, but I'll go into the details of how we get to figure this out later on as well. So please don't hesitate. Any questions are really welcome, and we'd love to just see something. But I think we are good to go now. So let's start the first slide here. So the first one is that in Swoop, we divide grants into two sections, so to speak, and it's a very rough divide, but it's to make it easier for everyone to understand how we support with them. So the first one is the capital local grants, and then the other one is the innovation grants. To dig a bit deeper into each of these types, it is that the capital and local grants are often based on the area you're trading in. So whether that is in London or whether it's in Liverpool or somewhere else throughout the UK. And then you'll have a certain pot of funds that you can then apply for and then hopefully win that money to grow your business. Often these are from everything from £1,000 up to, I'd say, £25,000 is probably the maximum we're seeing in that one. If a business is looking for bigger grants and wants to see what's available, then we have the innovation side of things. So if your client is doing any kind of innovation, so that could be across any sector and across any market, we would be able to see if there might be one of the bigger grants available for them to help boost this type of project. So often we have a rule of thumb that this will be everything from £50,000 up to a few million. So it really is a big range, and we'll work together with yourself and your client to talk about how that works the best. So we also do work in two different ways depending on what lead you have for grants. So the local grants of things is often a bit more simple to apply to. So often we use a signposting service where with your portal, either broker portal or advisor portal, you'll be able to see all the matches that are available based on the sector and the location that you provide. If you then send that link out to your client, they can apply it themselves or with the help of you, and then see if that goes further. With the innovation side of things, often because they are a bigger pot of funds, it's a bit more complicated compared to what the application process looks like. So we'll often see that there are more people applying for the same amount of grants, and there's only a certain amount available in each competition. So if we look at that, we have a panel of grant writers both within the UK but also in the EU, depending on where your client is based or where the project will be taking place. So if you have any of those, reach out to your account manager and we'll be able to support you through this and talk about what might be the best option for them. So let's go on to the next slide here. So on the local grant side of things, this is the majority of things that we will be looking at. So within England, we look at the LEPs, the local enterprise partnerships. There are about 38 of these. It changes a bit throughout the year, but throughout every year, but that is the main pot of funds. So the best option for an English business is to go to that local enterprise partnership with a growth hub and then see what is available in my area. We have something similar in both Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland, where they have different systems set up for supporting businesses. So in Wales, it's Business Wales. In Scotland, it's Business Gateway, and then in Northern Ireland, it's often Invest NI. With that being said, it's not the only providers of funding, so there might be a few other options available, but again, that's where we're here to help. I don't know if any of you guys are in Ireland or have clients in Ireland, but if you do, then we have Enterprise Ireland and Intertrade Ireland as the main uses of grants there, distributors. So again, if you have any Irish clients, the process is the same where we can help you. For the clients who, for you guys that have a white label, so I know some of our advisors and some of our brokers have their own white label. What that means is it's a branding of the Swoop platform, so in your own colors, in your own logo and everything, and therefore you can send that out to your clients and they can actually look for what's available themselves. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, reach out after the meeting and we can have a chat to see if that works for your business as well. Then we have the next slide here is how do you then apply for a grant that you find? So often I'd say what we find is that businesses find it hardest to figure out what is available for your client base. So what is out there? What is out there for the business? And it's not always as easy as it should be to figure this out. So we've made a few tips. So the first one is obviously letting them know of what's available. So that is either through your own search on the platform or sending the white label out where they can simply go in and check it all themselves. Then the next step is the project itself. So often the grant is based on a project coming up. So it can be around everything, but it needs to be that project. That's the scope of the grant. So when you read a grant, it has what we call a scope. And therefore there's different, you can call it like priorities for each of them. So when the assessors are assessing whether the grant is available, they will check what is ticking the box and what is not. So it's really important to have the timing correct and therefore also the timeline of the grant. So maybe it's open now, but the project cannot start until, let's say, December. It has to align with those criteria. Then we have the total cost. Again, there are specific rules as to how much they can cost and how much they can spend of the grant, which we'll come into in a second as well. So it needs to just align with that. Then a key one is share the objectives of what this grant will do for your business, but also for the local environment around you. So often with the local grants that we see throughout the UK, a key objective will be to get new jobs in place, secure already existing jobs that could be at risk of losing out. It can be going green, so seeing if you can lower your carbon emission or doing something that's better for the planet as well. So depending on what grant they're going for, the objectives will be a bit different, but it's always really important to just outline how do I exactly help with that. So yeah, that's a key one where I think you guys can go in and help your client in that process as well. Then the last one is how to define projects. So often we see clients go for a grant, but with a very vague example of what they'll be using the money for. And that's just a no-go in the grant as well, because the assessors need to see if we give you this £5,000, what do we know we'll get as it, what will we get back from it in that community? So have a defined project and see how it aligns with that. It might not be that there is a grant at this very moment, but grants open up throughout the year. So just keep looking for them I recommend 3 months as a rule of thumb, because then there will be most likely a whole new grant landscape. I can see we have a question, so let me just pull that up. So we have, as a broker, what commission split do we get for arranging these grants for clients? And that's a really good question, because from the first slide I had with the local and innovation grant, the local grants is, from Swoop's point of view, a solely add-on service where they actually get all the research for free, which is a really good service, and we see that helps a lot of clients. But what we've seen with a broker such as yourself is that sometimes they charge for this search for clients, and say, we're going out to search for it and we'll charge you X amount of pounds, so you get an extra service added into that category that you're already doing. And then if we have an innovation grant where your client is successfully introduced to one of our partners and they go ahead with it, the partners will charge what we call a riding fee and then a success fee if it's successful. So that's how we would get a commission based on that, and then you would get your share of commission as well. I hope that answered that. Then you say, why would they go through a broker if they can apply via the government website? Again, that's a really good question. I'll get back to that one in a second, where I just have a few things on the innovation side. And then I'll definitely we'll share the slides and a few key questions after this as well, so you all have it. So I think that should be it for now, but those are the first tips. Then what you can do as a broker is, or as an advisor, is help them with the documents needed. So as I said, the local grants are often a bit less intense in terms of what is needed for the application process, but often you'd be able to help them put together the financials, put together the timeline, everything of that, so you can either have that as an existing service for your clients, or if they don't already use you for that, you can maybe add that into it. So I've just taken a very simple Innovate UK grant as an example, and for that you'd need the grant application in itself with that clear description of what is the project, what is the objectives, what do we get out of it, and etc., and therefore the project timeline. So often it says it has to last between, let's say, 3 to 6 months. You need to show you'll have that ready within those months. And then you have the detailed budget, which I think most of you guys would be able to have them put together, as well as forecast. So that's a key one to show what will this do for the business and what are the objectives they're looking to achieve. Then the latest set of filed accounts and the management information, depending on what grant it is, and then bank statements. So again, this will be slightly different depending on what grant they're looking for. So it's not a full-on list where that's the only ones that isn't being that's being assessed upon, but it's a good starting list. Then if a client is successful with, especially the bigger innovation grants, like a whole lot of admin work comes on the back of that, which if you don't do that yourself already and can support them with, we again have some partners who can go in and just make sure the reporting is up to date. Because what most clients don't realize is if you don't have quarterly reports, then plans, forecasts, everything up to date and showing what you're using that money on, the government can actually go in and take that money back again, so you lose out on that fund, which is obviously not good when you have that in as the main cost of things. So what we often see is the general reporting, which will be a progress report, second level project plans, project risk registers, and then the financial forecasting. And then as well, if there is slightly changes to the plan compared to what you put in as the grant application, sometimes they do allow changes to be made, but sometimes it's set as to have to be that. So that's why it's so important with that, with that application process. So let me go on to the next one. So if we dive into the innovation side a bit more, that is where we in Swoop can do the biggest difference for our clients, is helping them figure out what is the project that's suitable for this type of grants and how do you get it. Because it's not every project that can have an innovation grant, and it's not every innovation grant that there is a specific scope for. So often there are different focuses. So we've had a focus on medical, businesses in general, farming businesses. Tech is always a really big one. So that's a great one to have in mind. So what I'd say is use TRL, which stands for Technology Readiness Level. And the sweet spot, if you can say, for grants and where it's really important to look for it, is between the 3 and 7 the stages. So it's not in the very early stages of research because you haven't proven the model, you haven't seen, is there a market for this? Is there a gap that we're fulfilling with this? And is it actually a gap that needs to be fulfilled? Then the entire development phase is where the grants are at most, I'd say. And then the very early stages of deployment, just because when you get to have deployed the project, it doesn't apply for grants anymore. That's when you can then look at going into research and development tax credits to see, is there anything we've done throughout the last year, maybe 2 if you haven't filed already, to see, can we get some tax relief in that? So yeah, that is like a rule of thumb, but again, we're here to help if you ever have a client looking for what's available in terms of any grants, so we'll be happy to take a look. And I can see there's another question in the box now. So if we have a construction client in the York region, what is the best way of searching for any grants for them? It would be more LEP type grants, probably. Yes, so we actually do have a few construction focused grants in general as well. From the top of my head, there's one, I can't remember the name of it, but depending on whether you use advisor portal or broker portal, add them into that, and then under this section it says funding matches. You'll be able to see all the grants based in the region, so in York, and then the construction as the industry. So upload them to them, and then if you have any questions, our team will reach out once it's in the system. So then we have a second one. So as I said, the grants are a bit funny in the way that it's not always 100% funded. So we often see grants can cover up to 70%, with up to being the key there, because we see loads where it covers 20% up to 70%. We do see 70% for the bigger ones, but 20 to 50, I'd say, is more reasonable for the smaller ones where it covers it. Sometimes the business have the cash in hand to pay that match funding, so pay the remainder, but often we see it as being a good way to use either grant, equity, or some kind of funding to it. So if you ever have a client saying, we've won a grant, but we need to get this money ASAP because it needs to be there, otherwise, again, the successful application can be reverted, so you don't get that grant money. So it's key to have this match funding in place. And even if you have the cash in hand, sometimes it is actually better to take out a loan. So I don't know how much you guys will know about the deposit savings account we offer in Swoop, but we have a whole webinar on that later on. So if you have clients with a large bulk of cash set there, you can put them in a savings account where it just generates those extra interest, so it doesn't just stand there. So we've taken an example here. So if you have a grant and apply for it for £20,000 and it requires at least 50%, and at least, again, sometimes it's not even a set percentage. This means that you have to get £10,000 match funding. So you have to find that yourself as a business owner, you have to help your clients find that. And it's not everyone who just have that to spare. So that's when we can look at a few different options, and then we actually have a few different loan products that are specific to grants. So one being this advance funding. So that is more on the flip side. Once you have gone through the due diligence, once you've run the grant and had that offer letter, you can actually get up to 80% of the claim paid out from a grant advance funding. So that is a key thing to mention here, is that when you win a grant, especially the bigger ones from the government, often you don't get paid upfront, you don't get the payment in. So it's not you win £500,000 and you have it in your bank account tomorrow. You have to often spend money. Then you can invoice Innovate UK, who's the main distributor, for that money every quarter. So you have to pay it first, and then you go back and like have that loop of like circle all around. So advanced funding is just a great option for that, to kind of retain the cash flow. So often, especially with the bigger ones, it's a big chunk of the cash flow going to that specific project, and then before you invoice it and get the money back, it just takes that extra time. So grant advance funding can advance up to 80% of the claim, and that is for tax credits as well. So if you have any clients who've had a successful research and development tax credit, we can actually advance that as well, so they just get that a bit quicker. So as you can see, once it's been approved, so often that's the offer letter that does that, to make sure you are being paid by Innovate UK, you've gone through whatever checks there are, and then you can have it as quickly as 48 hours after the approval. So it goes really fast once we have the process. Swoop has a really great relationship with the lenders as well, so we can even give you the list of things that will be needed in order to be successful with it. So what documents are needed, what proof of the grant or R&D is needed, and so forth. So it's a really good one, especially if you have clients who won the grant and didn't realize it's not until after you've actually spent the money that you get it in. It just helps ease it a bit more. And then I have one final slide here just to say, how do you then spot a grant opportunity, and how do you spot the innovation grants, which is the key one, because with the local ones, you can't really say this is the criteria you need to fulfill, because that will depend on what grants are available in the area. But if you have any clients that can answer yes to any of this, it's a really good starting point. And then if you send that to myself or to your account manager here in Swoop, we'll then be able to say, is there actually something we can do? So the first one is, do they actually have a unique and innovative project that they need funding for? The amount of clients I have coming to me that says, we don't have anything at the moment, but we want to know whether there's something for it right now. Often you're just out too late, a bit too late about it, because when you win the grant, often there's like a 3-month waiting period where you then kick off with the project. So it has to go really, really fast with the whole research of the market and research of everything. So key one is to have a project in mind, and maybe you already have started thinking about when to execute it, what they need the funding for, and especially what gap are they filling. So the key question to see if something is innovative for me is to say, what is it fulfilling in the market that's not already done by a competitor? So is there a gap where there's just no one doing this? Often that's an innovative way of looking at it, if there is a market for it. So sometimes you also come up with an idea, but there's just not a market for it. But again, it's something we just need to work on and see, is there something we can do about it? On that market research, again, it can be quite time consuming and everything. So we have some expertise at our hands as well, who can help search for the market, see what the general consensus is in terms of what to do with it and everything. So that's the key one. Then have this successfully applied for a grant previously? That's always a good starting point, because they've done something previously, then they must be maybe doing something new again. It's important to state here that you can't often apply for 2 grants for the same project at once. So if there are 2 grants open that can cover pretty much the same project, you can't win them both, unfortunately, especially not if it's with the same exact project. So if you have 2 projects within a bigger piece of work, then you can apply for 2 separate. But it's just important to state, because your application or the client's application can actually be found inadmissible if they've applied for it twice. And often with the competitions, you can apply for it if it opens up again up to 2 times extra, or sometimes it's a one-off. So if you don't nail it the first time, it's going to be really hard. And then 2 is if and 2 is if you don't have that understanding of what was wrong in the first application, sometimes it's really hard to tweak the second one. Have they successfully had an R&D claim in the past is a big one as well, because that shows me that they're doing something innovative. They're doing something where they've rethought the process or whatever they won that for. So instead of then, you just have to change the mindset a bit, because with R&D, it's something you've already done. You look back and say, these things were innovative, we can claim it back for that. With grants, you look at it the other way around. So you look at the forward thinking and say, we have these things coming in. Is there anything in that process we can either optimize in an innovative way, or is the entire bit just innovative so we can actually go and apply for grants? So it's just a bit of shifting the mindset for it. And then often partners are a really good thing to have for grants, because it can be, depending on how you work with them, of course, but sometimes it's a criteria to have a partner in either a different sector, maybe within a different entity. So it could be like you have to work with a charity or not-for-profit organization. So there's just, again, a few different criteria, but that's not the key one, because we can always help and say this would not go and this would go. So just keep that in mind. So if the first 4 is fulfilled, I'd say we have a good chance of at least finding something, maybe not at this very second, but then we'll keep our eyes out on anything new coming in, because we update the grant finder tool on a daily basis, so we are up to date. I think at the moment it has above 500 grants live at the moment, so there will be a bit of a chunk you'll see once you upload them. Then if I just circle back to one of the questions from earlier about why would they go to a broker and advisor rather than just applying for it themselves. So they can apply for it themselves. There's nothing stopping them from doing that, because it's there and they can see the entire application process, what is needed, everything from that. But what I can say is it's a very hard process, especially through the government, where it's Innovate UK, because I think we have one where it's like 16 pages of information about the funding, about the project, about the business, and it's just a very big chunk of information you need to gather, and sometimes the wording is a bit different compared to what you're used to when running the business. And the main thing we do see why they should come to yourself is that you work with a funding provider who can help with grant writing. So you work with us, or if you have a separate partnership, but we work with the experts, so they can go in and just ease that experience a bit. First of all, they know how to read the scope. They know what Innovate UK are looking for. A lot of our grant writers are actually either still assessing with Innovate UK or previous assessors. So they've seen tons of applications. They know what works, they know what don't. And then the chance of success is the main one. So if we take what we call the Smart Grant as an example, that's the most popular Innovate UK grant. And they are the ones where it's any side of tech, so it has so many applicants every year, or every quarter is what is mostly open. So we see about a 5% success rate if people do it themselves. So you can see how much work you put into it. If you don't get it, it's wasted work. It don't necessarily have to be that, but a lot of the clients are looking like it for that. But it's also with our partners, they have above 60% success rate for that. So you can see from 5% to 60%, it just heightens that significantly. And you just know it's people who know what's going on. And should it be not accepted or not successful, they will then understand the feedback you get from that application and can help tweak the things so it has a higher chance of success the next time around. So I'd say, I hope that answers the questions, but I'd say that's the main thing, is it just helps take that task away and not have the laborious task of it. And then if you think about the government website from a local point of view, and that's where the question was intended, the thing is that the government website don't have all the grants available, so they wouldn't necessarily see it if they go into just one website. Often you have to scour the net for tens of pages to find the one that fits your business correctly. So I said in the beginning, it's mainly LEPs that have grants available for them, but there are sector specific as well. So we see, if you work with any clients in the creative space, we do see a few with that, where especially the British Film Fund is quite popular. So that's one you wouldn't necessarily find if you look through what's available in your region. So yeah, that's what I would say is the main thing, especially if you have the white label, as I mentioned before. It's just easy to send out and yeah, get them to check it themselves, so you don't have to look through all of them yourself, but they know exactly what works for their business. And then I can see that just another question would be how to use this as a marketing tool as well. And I know a few of you have been talking with your success manager about this already and seeing how to use it, because it's no secret grants is a very hot topic, and it's something all of the clients would love to see if it's available. So you can we have a marketing hub. If you don't have access, just reach out to one in the team, and we'll be able to just give you that extra element where you can see social posts, you can see emails, blogs, everything you can reuse for your own website. And then we see just having grants and saying you can help with grants is a really good differentiator compared to some other competitors of yours where they don't do that, because all businesses would be interested if they can get free money where they don't have to pay it back. So that would probably be a really good marketing tool also for both for existing clients to have that chat to see if they are looking for any projects, and if they are looking for projects, do they have the finance in place? So there might be a grant, but there might not. But if they have a project, they need to finance it some way. So if they don't have that cash in hand, we can then look at one of our other options for it. So that's for existing clients. And then for new ones, it would be just a really great way to get the interest in, and then maybe book a meeting with yourself, talking about the different services you can provide with that as well. So that's a really good one to send. And then the last question from what it looks like, unless another one just comes in here, is can you send the slides along with the qualification criteria for different grants and process to apply? So the process to apply is not one step, or it's not one fits all. I can send a few examples of the bigger ones so you can see what works goes into that. And then I'll send the slides and any questions you can have with your clients as well to see, is there something we can do for them? So that is, yeah, we'll send that out. If not, if you don't have it this afternoon, we'll send it out tomorrow morning. So you all have the recording as well. So if you have anything there, it will go out from my own email. So please respond to that if you have anything you'd like us to look into, or any questions in general on Swoop, either grants or other funding we can help your businesses with. And then, yeah, I'm just really happy that you guys took the time out of your day to learn a bit more about grants and join me in this webinar. So I hope everyone has a lovely rest of your day, and then I'm sure we'll speak soon as well.